Welcome back to the Underway podcast. This is episode 22. I'm joined here with Russell. We're a man down. Sam's having a mental health week. And we are going to be talking about all things Olympic lifting today. We are about 3 weeks out from our maxed out day that is going down on August 19th. So we're going to be maxing out the snatch and clean and jerk. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to speak about 5 of our best tips that will generally help you in your Olympic lifts and some different things that you can focus on. We are going to get stuck into that, but before we do, just how you going, Russ? What's been going on?
I'm good. We just came back from weekend away I was away with Jack and a few of our mates down in Lake Centrix, which was a lot of fun. Brendan's got himself a new boat, and we got to go out on his new toy and hit the water, and it was good. It was good vibes. The sun was out, so no complaints there.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty vibey weekend.
And just to clarify, Sam's mental health's good. He's just having a few days off, and so he's just chilling out.
Yeah,
putting the feet up. So don't worry about Sam. He's fine. He's fine.
He's all right. He's all right. He's away with us too. We had a pretty fun weekend. What was your favourite part about the weekend? Do you feel good after just getting away?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I just definitely don't feel relaxed.
Right.
It wasn't a relaxing weekend, I would say.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go away for a weekend, but you haven't had any. It's not like downtime. It's not like you're going away to put your feet up and do nothing. We're sort of doing stuff the whole time, weren't we?
Yeah, going for it.
Yeah, but it was a bit of fun.
Yeah. No, it's good to do, man. Yeah, it's sweet. All right, well, let's get stuck into it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, what's our first tip, Russ?
Well, before we get into the tips, I guess for those of you, or hopefully everybody listening to this knows what the Olympic lifts are. So the Olympic lifts, there's 2 Olympic lifts. There's the clean and jerk, and then there's the snatch. Yeah. So the goal is to get the bar from the floor to overhead, and the clean and jerk and the snatch are the 2 most efficient ways to do that. So that's what we're going to be talking about. If you didn't know, the clean is where you take the bar from the floor to your shoulder. The jerk is where you take your bar from the shoulder to overhead. And the snatch is when you do that in one motion. You go straight from the floor all the way to overhead. So that's the first point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So hopefully you guys knew what they were.
All right.
And the first thing we're going to be talking about is learning how to use your triple extension, or actually learning how to use your jumping action to propel the bar upwards. So the purpose of the Olympic lifts is to develop explosive power, and to develop speed strength, and to develop learning how to absorb force. So if we're not moving the bar fast, there's a good chance that we're not actually developing that explosive power. And the powerhouse of our bodies is everything is generated outwards from our hips. So if you want to throw a hard punch, if you want to throw a ball bar, if you want to throw someone over your shoulder, if you want to jump as high as possible, if you want to do anything in any explosive manner, it's probably going to involve your torso and your hips to generate a lot of that power, and then the power is just being expressed outwardly from your body. Yeah?
Well, it's the idea of core to extremity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the power beginning from the centre and then moving outward, and then you're creating some sort of action and creating some sort of powerful force.
That's why you see the Olympic lifters, they hit their snatches and they hit a backflip.
Yeah. Because they're powerful.
Because they're super powerful.
Yeah, they've got those jumping muscles.
Yeah. So I guess the hardest thing to learn as a beginner is actually to learn to use that jump to actually create that weightlessness on the bar, and not because in your head you're like, oh, I've got to get this bar all the way up there, and you think I'm just going to pull it up with my arms. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is, and it's like anything, is learning the right way is often a lot more beneficial than learning the wrong way and then having to relearn something at a later date, because you get into bad habits. And especially with something like the Olympic lifts, things are happening so fast, eventually things become on autopilot, and hopefully you've learned the right way so that your autopilot your muscles fire is the correct way. And you'll see even at the elite levels, you'll still have people that you would say that's technically incorrect, but because they've done it so much, that is now the most efficient pathway for them to to achieve their full potential.
It's like the amount of time it would take to actually untrain that particular point of the lift. The amount of time it would take was just not worth it. To the gain they would have instead of this like really nice groove they've already got.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's why in the top end you'll see, you might see some technical flaws. I guess. Yeah.
In any sport, I think you'd see that. Like, if you looked at powerlifting, you'd probably see a lot of people you'd probably look at that going, oh, that's questionable. Like, you wouldn't teach that deadlift technique to a beginner, you'd probably hurt them, but they've done thousands of reps there. So that's their strongest position. You know what I mean? So they're like, if you tried to probably fix them, they're probably more likely to injure themselves doing that than just doing the way that they've done thousands of times. So I guess the point there is take things slowly in the beginning and get your head around the technique and get your head around utilizing your hips and utilizing that explosive triple extension.
And so when you say triple extension, Russ, what do you mean?
So that's it's if you were to stand still and then jump as high as possible, at the top, just before you leave the floor in that jump, your ankles are going to be fully extended, your hips are going to be fully locked out, and your knees are going to be fully extended, and that's the triple extension action. The violent extension of your ankle, your knees, and your hips all at the same time. So all those joints are hitting their full lockout, and that's going to propel you upwards, or in this case it's going to propel the barbell upwards.
And I suppose the difference is that bar's leaving the body and then driving upwards with you're creating vertical force on the barbell rather than creating vertical force in your body. So the goal isn't for you to obviously jump as high as possible, it's you use those jumping muscles to transfer energy into that barbell and have it be received at the shoulder.
And the mantra in Olympic lifting when it comes to your arms is where the arms bend the power ends, because as soon as you bend at your elbow, now your ability to hold that bend in your elbow is going to determine whether that force goes into the bar or gets lost in the middle. So if you bend your arms and then they straighten again, there's force leaving your body. If your arms stay completely straight, as you jump, the bar's jumping with your body essentially. So that bar's going up with you. If your arms are bent now, imagine you jump and then your arm goes from bent to straighten. You just lost a lot of that jumping potential. So unless you're very strong and you're strong enough to hold that arm bend, that force is no longer going into the bar. So that is why we, and you've probably heard it before, it's like keep your arms straight, stop pulling with your arms, keep your arms long. You almost want to pretend when you're lifting the bar that your arms are just like ropes attaching you to the bar. Especially as a beginner, you almost want to forget that you need to pull the bar overhead, because we want to get your hips and your legs doing the work first, and then once you've got that sorted, it's almost then like as you become probably an intermediate to advanced lifter in the Olympic lifts, then you might need to start to think about actively pulling with your arms to get that last 5%. You know what I mean? That last little bit on top. But for somebody who's first learning, if you start there, chances are you're going to overutilize your arms, which are not very big muscles, and underutilize the big thing, which is going to be that explosive triple extension. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those people listening out there, what is your tip to get them using the triple extension better?
Yeah, so I think definitely spending a bit of time there, like doing pauses in the positions in your warm up with the barbell, is a very, very simple way to do that. So obviously you got your common positions. People usually pause in, which are your floor, your hang, and your power position. But then getting up in that tall position, spending time there, feeling what the muscles being in that position, feel what the muscles feel like to be active there, like actively squeezing your glutes, your quads, and your calves to really accentuate that triple extension and the amount of muscle tension you have in that position, and because if you stand there and you get there slow and you actually don't have great muscular tension in that position, then when you try and get there fast, I guarantee you that the muscular tension won't be there. So I think just doing isometrics in those positions and becoming very familiar and having those positions be second nature for you is a really great idea. Do you have one?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that in terms of your, your learning curve, in terms of understanding the Olympic lifts, when you first start, everything will feel a bit unco. Everything's going to feel a bit clunky. You don't really know where you need to be. As you get better, then you start to understand the positions a little bit more, the positions Jack just touched on, and you understand that, that's where I'm meant to be, and then you start to feel those positions on the way up. In your lifts, you start to go, okay, cool, I'm hitting those positions. It's starting to feel right. Whatever I did then felt good. That felt good. And then as you get better again, you can start to identify when you miss or what you missed in terms of your lift, even without you filming yourself and looking back on it. Yeah. But filming yourself and looking back on it is probably the quickest fix for a lot of people, because once you do understand the positions, you do understand what it's meant to look like, then you can diagnose yourself about looking back, or showing a video to a coach that they know what to look for and they can identify where you're making the mistakes in your lifts.
Yeah, I think that's a sick point to bring up, because I think filming yourself is one of the best ways to obviously not only self-coach but to learn the lifts and see where you're going wrong, because the Olympic lifts are so fast and there are so many technical elements in them. It's hard to be thinking about all those things on the fly, and the cue that you may have been thinking about may have had you hyper-focused and meant that you stopped doing something else in your lift. So, you were focusing on your triple extension hard, but you early arm bend or something.
Yeah.
But you didn't realise because you were focusing on that triple extension so hard. Now you're in video review mode and you're like, oh shit, my elbows bend when I really try and triple extend hard. I didn't know that happened. And so you become more self-aware of your lifting and get an understanding of where you're at.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, thinking about something like in the Olympic list, really, once you've checked all your boxes in your setup, you probably only have enough mental capacity to focus on one thing. If you're trying to focus on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, you're probably not going to do any of them well. You want to focus on one thing, one thought in your head. So if you are struggling with triple extension, maybe it's you can't get your hips to fire, maybe you're not squeezing your ass hard, well, maybe that's your issue. So maybe that's the big focus. You're just trying to aggressively squeeze your butt at the top every single time. And eventually you might start doing that. But as a result of you squeezing your butt, now your knees aren't straightening. So you're still missing your triple extension, but we've got one thing going well.
Yeah.
Now that thing's going well, let's now think about extending the knees hard and see how that feels.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of it's definitely trial and error.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to have different cues and different things that if they think about it, all of a sudden it just fixes everything. One little thought versus okay, when I do this lift, I'm going to focus on this thing, and versus, okay, on this lift, I'm going to focus on this thing, and then watch them back and see which one, that looks perfect, or whatever I did then, I just need to repeat. And if you keep thinking about those things and repeating it, and it keeps looking perfect, chance over it looks perfect, it is perfect. That's my theory, at least.
It's not a bad one, yeah. But I find, I don't know if you have this issue, Russ, but people, you sort of we become focused on a cue. Yep. And then it's we're fixing that thing. So we're fixing the glute engagement in the top of the triple extension. And then, say we nail it and we even filmed it and we watched it back, and then the person will be like, oh, but I didn't get this, and then the focus becomes on another cue, and now it's the issue is that we're focusing on multiple things at a time, and it's people don't just take the win on, hey, we fixed the thing that we're actually trying to focus on, great job, well done, you did what you set out to do, now take that little win and know that your technique got better today, and move forward. Yeah,
and I guess that's a really good point, is a lot of the time you're never going to be perfect, striving for perfect, although it's in an ideal world, we'd all be doing things perfectly, but generally speaking, no one's ever going to be perfect. But if we can just get a bit better every time, better and better, better's still better. And at the end of the day, like, that better is going to end up at your best.
Yeah.
And your best might not be perfect, but it's still your best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, get better. And something like the Olympic lifts, because they are so technical, they are so challenging, to learn them and do them well and perform them to, you know, to the ability of, say, you know, yourself, you've got I would say you're like probably one of the top 5% best Olympic lifters in Australia, would you say?
Leave me out of it. Nah.
Top 5%?
Oh,
5%?
5%, probably.
Yeah, so that's...
Humbly, probably.
Yeah, I might even be higher than that.
We've been doing it for a long time.
Exactly, so, you know, to get to that...
We worked out that Keely's better than me. My raw lifts compared to my O lifts, and her raw lifts compared to her. So she's actually better than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but strength to body weight ratio, you're winning, right?
Strength to body weight ratio, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's probably, just another factor.
But, I mean, strength is still a determining factor to be good at the Olympic lifts. The Olympic lifts aren't just about how technically proficient you are. You've still got to be strong to do well at them.
Yeah, facts.
And there's always a balance, or like, you know, if your goal is to get as good with the Olympic lifts, there's always going to be some form of balance between your strength and your technical proficiency at the lifts.
That's
you could have the best looking Olympic lifts in the world, but you could still struggle to lift your own body weight.
It was funny. I was having this conversation the other day because I thought what Rachel said to me, she's like, Ben's a better Olympic lifter than you. And then I was sort of having a laugh and I was like, no, he's not. Because my raw strength is compared to my O lifts. Like, technically I'm a better lifter. And then Ben was there and I was like, hey, Benny, like this. I like just repeated it to him and he's like, yeah, 100%. And then we realised Keely was in the circle. And then we were like, hold on. What are Keely's lifts compared to... And we're like, Keely's actually better than both of us.
Or Keely just needs to get strong. She just needs to... I reckon that...
Well, that wasn't brought... Yeah, we didn't bring up that factor because I reckon we bring that back in with bang, Benny's got it for sure because he's stronger than Ox.
I reckon we get Keely some of those sniffing salts and just get her to rip the bar, man.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Protein shakes and sniffing salts. Dang. But yeah, you bring up a good point. Like, you know, you have to be your expression of strength still exists. Like, it's not just because it is a technical lift doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to also like know how to train to be very strong.
Yeah. And what you'll find is, you know, once you do have some technical proficiency, chances are you might PB clean and jerk and may have not done any cleaner jerks because you've just as a result of getting stronger. Whereas that rarely happens with the snatch.
No.
It rarely happens. You could get super strong and not a snatch in a while, and just because the snatch is so technical, that your snatch may not have improved.
Yeah, because it's like two lifts happening in one. Whereas the clean and jerk is two lifts, but you get a little break between one, and you can sort of isolate them a bit more. But the snatch, you just need to snatch to get better at snatching.
Yeah.
You know, you can clean to get better at cleans, and that'll help you clean and jerk, and you can jerk to help you get better at your clean and jerk. And it sort of isolates the movement. There's less technical things going on than putting it all into one fast lift under the bar. So yeah, the expression of the snatch is definitely harder. Yeah. There was one more point I had on the just like seesawing your way up in the, I call it seesawing. So like one thing goes down, like technically you'll be working on one thing, or like a coach gives you a cue. And you improve your triple extension because that's what the coach was asking to work on or what you're working on that day. But then, you know, you lose your knee extension in the middle of that, or you start to early arm bend, but you still got better. So one thing went up, the other thing went down a little bit, that's all right. But then like in your next session, say you focus on your early arm bend and then maybe your triple extension isn't as good as the last session, but it's still better than what it was. But then you're back pulling with straight arms. So I call that sort of seesawing your way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to, I guess... Yeah, if you focus on something, that's probably going to be the thing that you do the best.
Yeah.
And other things are going to suffer as a result of it. And then if you can fix those other things, and then... So that's why the journey of becoming really good at the Olympic lifts does take a long time. Because there's always something that's going to throw you out. And then when you start to add weight to the bar, your Olympic lifts might look perfect at 50%, but as soon as you get up to those higher numbers, that weight pulls you out of position. Yeah. Because you're a little bit weak somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're just not realising it. So when the weights get heavy, it becomes almost a different kettle of fish. And I have read somewhere that above 85%, your nervous system actually, it's a different, it identifies as a different movement to your nervous system.
Right.
And once you start hitting the heavy weight, so once you become a more seasoned lifter, you need to get better at your lifts, you need to start hitting weights closer to your 1RM to get better.
Yeah.
Whereas as a beginner, when you're just learning how to get into the right positions, you don't so much. You just need to understand the movement of the light load first before getting heavy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I feel that. I've seen that.
Well, that's the triple extension.
That's
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
We're moving on to our next
What's
point.
point 2, Russ?
Well, point 2 is you've got to earn the Olympic lifts. You've got to have the mobility before you try to perform the lift. So if you can get into a perfect overhead squat, then chances are squat snatches are going to be a good movement for you. If you can't, then if you try to squat snatch, chances are you're not going to get that bar overhead, or if you do, it's not going to look like it should.
Yeah.
There's going to be some fault involved. So
yeah,
it's have the baseline mobility before trying to increase the weight or do the exercise. So you have to have the mobility before you do the movement.
Yeah, it's a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
There's a requirement. There's a movement requirement. Certain movements you have to be able to do before you try and do the full snatch or full clean and jerk.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the two ones that we decided on were the overhead squat in the snatch.
Yep.
That's most commonly the one that people can't get into because it requires range of motion from many different joints, many different, and then the front rack in the clean, and even jerk really. Like if you've got a nice front rack, like you're gonna be able to jerk well, even though the elbows do sit lower. But if someone cannot drive their elbow up in any way, shape or form, that is going to limit them in the jerk. But predominantly in the clean, if you cannot front rack, that's going to be a barrier to entry to you hitting a heavy clean.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. You're not cleans are probably not going to feel good if you can't front rack the bar, and the bar's definitely not going to feel good overhead if you can't get down an overhead squat.
So Russ, what would your advice be to the people that physically cannot overhead squat or physically cannot front rack?
Well, it's like a checklist. It's like, for the snatch, probably your first thing that you need to tick off before you even think about getting a bar overhead in a snatch grip is, can you do a shoulder dislocate in your snatch grip? Because if you can't, you're putting yourself at risk when you are going overhead. If you cannot bail on a weight, that weight cannot fall down safely behind you and your shoulders don't have the mobility to go behind you with straight arms, then you're at risk of ripping a ligament, double dislocation.
Happens. Big time happens.
Yeah.
Like a broomstick pass over in your snatch grip.
Yep.
Okay, taking that broomstick in your snatch grip up and over your head.
Yeah. And even if that's a bit sticky in your snatch grip, I would say that's probably something you want to work on. You want that to feel in your snatch grip, you want that broomstick to go overhead nice and smooth.
Yeah, I know whenever my broomstick state feels bad, my snatching feels trash.
Yeah. Because you're not going to have, if you don't have the confidence to dump the bar behind you, if something goes wrong, you're likely not going to, you're going to just continue to catch the bar forward.
Yeah. And
that's going to cause different problems because you're just not confident to get the bar back. So that's probably the first one in terms of any sort of snatch. It's like, all right, you've got that. Can you do a broomstick dislocate? Yes. Cool. All right. Well, now you can power snatch. You're probably good to power snatch.
Number one. Yeah. So this person that can't overhead squat.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're saying be able to do a broomstick dislocate.
Yeah.
Power snatch. What's a power snatch?
Power snatch is just when you catch with a quarter squat. Yeah. So when your feet hit the ground, you're in a quarter squat position. That barbell's locked out overhead. So that's number one for the snatch.
Yeah.
Probably number two is then just take that broomstick and squat it all the way down, and then ideally do that with a barbell.
So you're saying if you can't do a clean overhead squat with a bar, don't squat snatch. That's your advice?
Don't. What's the point?
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah. You're going to get way more out of developing a really good, snappy power snatch. And if arguably the power variations of the Olympic lifts actually are better at creating explosive force. Yeah. What the Olympic lifts are designed for is to improve explosive power output. The power variations are better at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're someone who wants to jump higher, run faster, all of the above, they're actually going to have more carryover to that. The squat variations of the lifts are you manipulating your body under the bar to lift a heavier load.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to compete in Olympic lifting, you want to get the most weight on the bar, that's going to be the most efficient way to do that, is to manipulate your way down under the bar to catch it in a deep squat, to stand it up, yeah? But we can agree that the power variations are going to make you more powerful. The bar speed's going to be faster.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, as a beginner learning Olympic lifts, if you can get your power variations nice and snappy and fast, if you just spend the time to get mobile enough or learn the squat position, once you've got a nice snappy power snatch or snappy power clean, you just got to bend your knees and you're there.
Yeah.
It's just like eventually you'll just be able to go power snatch plus overhead squat. Your power snatch will catch in your quarter squat and then you'll just slowly squat down. And then eventually you won't need to have that pause in the middle. It'll just start dropping down. And then once you get comfortable doing that, all of a sudden you could say, I can catch the bar a little, the weight's getting heavy, I need to get under it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you've got to be comfortable doing that, I guess, those slow movements first and being stable before you just go, I'm just going to dive under this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially, and you don't definitely, if you've been power snatching, you've worked your way up to doing 40, 50 kilos in a power snatch.
Yeah.
You don't all of a sudden go, I'm going to have a crack at squat snatching and do 40, 50 kilos. You've got to go back down to a weight that you can do well in your overhead squat first before.
I feel like people will know, they know if they're ready or not. Like if you're forcing any positions, if you're like driving into that position, like, yeah, I think you just need to just take a step back and work on things.
Yeah.
Just regress and regress to progress.
100%.
Yeah.
I have done that plenty of times throughout my trainings. Like you hit a wall with something and then you actually go, okay, cool, I'm not getting better, so you almost need to go down to go up.
And I think if you don't do that, I think you'll actually just hit the wall of getting injured. I think probably over time you're going to experience an overuse injury if you're doing a lift that you're not meant to be doing because your mobility requirements aren't there.
Yeah,
you're going to be forced to take a step backwards at some point because now the shoulder's niggling because you have constantly forced this position. Wrist, elbow, something in the front rack. It's something's hurting and you're like, okay. Yeah. Your body starts to tell you that something's wrong. We need to change it, and you end up being better for it. I know that I've experienced that so many times. I usually like just too aggressive with dosage. I just get G'd up for a training block and do too much, and then experience an overuse and dosage. But definitely if you're forcing a position that you can't get into is definitely a one-way ticket to the osteo.
Yeah, and you don't want that because your best progress is always made through consistency. So if you hurt yourself by letting your ego get in the way, or you're like, I'm just going to have a crack at doing this a little bit more, and if you don't do it as well as it should be executed and you hurt yourself, then you're not training at all for a little while, which means you're going backwards.
And I think sometimes it's hard to know if your ego is making the decision. And I reckon a good question to check yourself with is you ask yourself, am I genuinely ready for this thing I'm trying to execute? Do I think where I'm at right now, my physicality and mentality, am I actually ready for this? Or is it going to hurt me? Like, is it a level above where I'm at? So I think just checking that you're playing at your level, not saying not to overreach and take the step into other levels, and not to be confident and go for things, but definitely I know at times, like I definitely battle that at times. Like, what is my next step? Like, do I overreach or no, am I not reaching enough? Like, so just getting that balance. Yeah,
and I guess the thing with the Olympic lifts is, like, they are so technical, and your best Olympic lift is going to be when you execute that technique perfectly. So if you start to add weight to the bar and your technique's slipping as a result, that's a good indicator that that's the weight you probably need to stay at, or just under that weight. And then if you can make that feel perfect, you're now ready to go up. I'm not saying that when you max out, it's not going to be your prettiest lift a lot of the time. A lot of the time when you max, things you're on the cusp of, like, things are going slightly wrong, right?
Yeah.
when you start to approach that true max. So that's why we don't true max every single day, is because at those true max weights, chances are it's no longer technically your best lift.
Yeah.
But if we can get that 85% weight feeling good, and then all of a sudden your true max goes up a little bit, and then you're lifting 5 kilos more, and that looks good, and then just like a never-ending process of slowly creeping up that weight that's just probably under your max enough that you can make it perfect, and just keep working at that until that feels easy and feels so comfortable, and then all of a sudden a little bit more feels comfortable. And these, like the Olympic lifts, they do take a long time to get weight on the bar.
Yeah.
Like some lifters will only increase their weights to 5 kilos in the whole year, and that's a win for them. Especially once you get to
more experienced. Lifters,
Once you get to a point, you can add 5 kilos to your O lifts. That's huge.
Yeah.
So for what I'm saying is don't go too heavy too soon in your training, but that doesn't mean you can't have a crack at some weights when it is time to max.
Yes.
Like when you do max your O lifts, it's scary.
Yeah.
You're going to get a little bit, you're going to be shitting yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And
facts. Yeah. You got to. I mean, you're diving under a weight that you're not sure if you're going to catch, and landing in a position with that weight over your head. So the risk is higher with these lifts. And I think that's why they're actually more respectable than other lifts, because there is that genuine danger element involved in these lifts, and I think that respect element, people bring that to the lifts so they remain safe. So people are actually ensuring that I'm going for a big lift. I understand the risk involved, so I'm going to make sure that I'm hyper focused and ready to go, and understand how to fail and things like that.
So coming back to that mobility, we talked about the snatch. We talked about you have to have a broomstick dislocate, nice and comfy in your snatch grip. Step 1. Overhead squat. Ideally, if you want to squat snatch, if you've got a really good overhead squat with a broomstick, hopefully with a barbell, before you start really worrying about the squat snatch too much.
Mm-hmm.
The other one would be mobility for your jerk. Like if you cannot strict press the bar or strict press a broomstick and have that barbell sitting in a position which it's sitting directly over the top of your spine, and your elbows are locked, you shouldn't be jerking. Yeah. So for most people, if that is hard to do that with your knees locked and your hips locked out, as soon as you bend your knees, the requirement for mobility on your thoracic spine increases. So most people will bend their knees and their elbow or the bar will start to drift further in front.
Yeah.
If they don't have. So if you're borderline just getting the bar there without a knee bend, it's not going to feel great when you bend your knees. So what do you need to do? Push press.
Push press hard.
Push press.
Yeah.
Because push press is still going to teach you the same timing of legs then arms. So in terms of the jerk, it's like the power clean of cleans.
Yeah.
It's like you're just not dropping under the bar.
Yeah.
The jerk again is you're just manipulating your body to lift the barbell a shorter distance so you can increase the load on the bar.
Mm-hmm.
But from a strength point of view, if you only push press, like you're still going to be very, very strong and overhead just push pressing.
I think it's important to note that the push jerk actually requires more mobility than the split jerk.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're getting to a strong push press position, you are probably someone that can split jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it would be ideal if you could just were mobile enough to do a push jerk.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
some people will never get there though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, I guess
with the amount of time and commitment they have to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could, if you spend every day with us, we could sort you out. But some people, they work on it once a week for 10 minutes, maybe not even 5 minutes, and that's all they'll ever do, and that's okay. And, yeah.
And I think if you're someone who does have a sticky overhead position, like it's like anything, it's like the only way you get better at it is to put yourself in that position. So if something's important to you, you need to do it often. So if your overhead position sucks, but you only go overhead once or twice a week, chances are it's not going to go to any better, because there's, all the rest of the week your arms aren't above your head.
Yeah.
We don't walk around with our arms like this, running around with our arms above our head. So, chances are the only the 10 minutes you put it above your head twice a week in the gym isn't enough to actually make a positive change.
Unless you're a professional roller coaster tester. You keep those hands above your head all day. And you go fast too.
Maybe the professionals, they, keep the elbows tucked or something. I don't know.
There's a technique, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're more aerodynamic that way, right? throw the hands in the air, you're a noob on the roller coaster.
Nah, that's scare factor. shows you got the balls and lady balls.
So in terms of overhead position, is like just if your overhead position sucks, come into the gym and either hang from a bar, because that is you in an overhead position, and that's probably going to help you massively. Is just spending more time hanging.
Yeah. Is
going to help you with your overhead. And number 2 is then put something above it, like hang first and then put something above your head. Once you've, your tissues are a little bit warmer and you're a bit more stretched out, put a bar above your head, even if it's just a strict press position. Or if you're at that point where you can get into a good overhead position, but as soon as you get into a jerk, things start to get shaky. It's like, just do a quarter squat, like a SOTS press, but not from a full squat position. So you just bend your knees a little bit and then you press the bar above your head either from the front rack or behind your neck.
Quarter squat, SOTS press. Yeah. Learn to push jerk.
Yeah. Okay. Like just strict press, but in a quarter squat position, because that's going to develop all the muscles required for you to catch the bar in that position. If you can do it with the strict, then you can probably do it once you add a bit of momentum and speed in the mix.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah.
So if that's you and you want to get your jerk better because you got tight shoulders, then put yourself in that position and start pressing.
Yeah. What about people with front rack issues?
Front rack is probably the hardest one to address, and probably the people with the tightest front racks. Women in general, front racks are non-issue for 95% of women, I would say.
Yeah, that you've come.
Males, the bros, they get in the gym when they're young, start benching.
Yeah.
Start benching poorly.
Right.
Start hugging things. I don't know. They're, generally speaking, men are much tighter through the upper body than women. Don't have that ability for their shoulders to external rotate. So the front rack position it's probably not as simple as the best thing is get into the position like we just said with the overhead.
Mm-hmm.
But there possibly needs to be some other mobility, work done outside of you putting yourself in the bar in the front rack.
Mm-hmm.
The best one is probably behind the neck, drive the elbows high. That's going to stretch you out and get you in what looks like the right position. But there probably does need to be some other, SMR, which is self-myofascial release, which is like massage. Get a massage the tissues so they become loose enough.
Yeah.
You probably need to do some, some form of banded stretch or something that's going to wrench you into external rotation. There's a lot of things that could be wrong. It's either like tight lats, tight triceps, or a little bit of lack of wrist extension.
Yeah.
So it's one of those 3 things. The simplest thing is to again put yourself in the position often.
Mm-hmm.
The other things that might need to happen are a little bit more specific. But we put a little snippet out a few weeks ago on Instagram of some stretches that you could incorporate into your routine if the front rack is an issue for you.
Mm-hmm.
And cleans aren't going to feel good if you don't have a good front rack. They're going to feel horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Agree?
100%.
And there's probably not much point doing cleans if you have a shitty front rack, because the risk is that you catch the bar wrong and you break your wrist, and that is painful. And
not going to be efficient for you to improve your lifts. So.
And I've seen some people over the years. I know a few people who've busted their wrist pretty badly.
Yeah,
missing a clean. Even these people had good front racks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a dodgy front rack, you're at risk.
You are. Yeah.
So spend the time to work on it first, and that doesn't mean. So if chances are, if you've got if you're a person, say you're a person with a dodgy front rack position, but you can get that bar overhead and snatch grip perfectly. You can do a perfect snatch grip dislocate. you should probably just snatch more and forget about the clean until you've worked your way up to the point that you can get into a good front rack position. Because if you keep trying to do that without the subsequent mobility, there's just more risk of you. Well, there's probably the first thing that's probably going to happen is you're not going to get better at it. You're just not going to get much stronger at it because your body's putting on the brakes every time it gets close to that position. Every time you go to put your elbows out, you can't get there. Your body's like, we need to pull things back. We need to slow down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if we want to move fast and efficiently, that's not going to happen.
Can they power clean?
Well, can they power clean?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. If they can do it.
If you can do it, yes.
Yeah.
But if you can't even get the bar on the shoulder and you're like, or you've got one finger under the bar,
yeah, no.
Is it worthwhile?
No.
Possibly not.
No.
Probably not.
No. It's not.
But if you were just replace those cleans with power snatches and they look perfect, chances are you're going to get better at them. You're going to put more weight on the bar. You're going to develop that explosive force we're talking about. And the snatch and the clean, you're going through the same positions anyway on the way up. You're training the same triple extension movement.
Mm-hmm.
You're just finishing in a different position. They're so similar that almost if you get better at one, you'll get better at the other to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
If you would just spend time to address your mobility issues. And when you can get into a good front rack, what you'll probably find is your clean will very quickly catch up to your snatch.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. If you can't, someone who can't get into overhead position, but you can catch a good clean.
So I'd say to conclude on all that, I'd say that there's a few lines in the sand, some boundary lines that you actually can't cross. And it's like, if you can't overhead squat, stop squat snatching. If you can't front rack a bar properly, stop doing full cleans because you're going to injure yourself. It's like safety first, applies in life, applies in the gym even more so. So safety first, health second. So, let's stay healthy in the gym. Let's make smart decisions. If a coach has talked to you and given you the idea that you may need to regress one of these movements and stop one of these movements, they've probably set it for very good measure and it's been a calculated assumption. And I would definitely suggest taking that advice.
Yeah. And remember, guys, like the most important thing with any form of training is you're training to improve.
Yeah.
So it is very hard to improve when you cannot do something well. So it's like the exercise, it's an exercise, right? Like, and then the Olympic lifts are probably, they're down the realm of like you'd say, people like functional movement, but like when in life do you pick something off the ground and go, I'm just going to throw it overhead and full squat? Yeah. Way! Like never. So it's a way that, we've developed to move the barbell overhead most efficiently. That being said, there's the positions are there for a reason, and the positions are there because that is the safest positions to be in. It isn't worth doing if you're not in the right positions.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to improve or you're going to put yourself at risk. And the goal is to get better at something.
A lot of people want to do it just because they want to complete all the exercises in CrossFit, but they're trying to rush that process.
Yeah. Complete to get to the point that you're ticking all the boxes as an RX athlete.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
It does.
And you've got to be earn the base. You've got to be proficient at the basics before you get proficient at the fancy stuff.
And I think a big point is some people are really good at certain things in CrossFit. Example, great runner, maybe a great back squatter, can do a ring muscler, but just can't snatch. Is at the bottom in the class for snatches. That person generally, as a coach, that person that I've come across, and that might be an example of any other one of those that they're not good at, but are strong at other things. They're not willing to actually take that to realise, I've got to take that big step backwards to go and work on it. It's demotivating to go and take baby steps on exercises that you're shit at when you're already running or sprinting in other exercises.
Yeah. But what you gotta understand is if that is you, and 80% of the work you're doing, you can do well and you can complete with some form of intensity because you can hold on to good positions, then you're still going to improve from just doing that bit a little bit lighter and identifying, I'm not actually great at this yet, so I'm just going to take it slow and try to nail the position. I don't care about the weight on the bar.
Yeah.
The movement should always be more important than the weight on the bar. We only get people to add weight once their movement is good at that weight.
Yeah.
For any movement, right? It's like you're going to, for progressing, but then changing the movement you're doing to make progress isn't progress.
Yeah.
You've just now shortened your range of motion. Or
what's an example of that?
Well, like adding weight, it's like you're doing back squats.
Yeah.
You've got 30 kilos on the bar. You can do a perfect back squat.
Right.
You put 40 kilos on the bar. You're now doing a quarter squat. You're not hitting depth, but you just added 10 kilos but now you're not doing the same movement.
Yeah.
So you're not building strength in the same range of motion.
No.
So there's not that progressive overload's not occurring.
So what does that person need to do?
They need to just go, okay, cool, I can do 30 kilos. Well, I'm going to keep doing 30 kilos until it feels easy, and then I'm going to add weight to the bar.
Yeah.
So they might just need to take a chill pill on adding weight, or they might have just need to go to 32.5 kilos. Maybe they could have done
jump. Yeah.
Maybe they could have done 32.5 and still be good.
Yeah.
But if you're taking a jump and things are starting to break down, and that's probably going to happen more so with your technical lifts than, the more simpler variations.
Yeah.
Like your power lifts, you can probably add weight and things will still look good most of the time, whereas the Olympic lifts, they get to a point and everything starts going haywire.
Yeah. Should we get to point 3?
Yep. Yeah, so mobility, big one, but it's annoying, but you got to do it. So if you're someone who needs to get more mobile, just identify that and then maybe reach out to one of your coaches for some exercise to do. You probably just need, for most of you though, it's probably just you need to do more frequency.
Frequency is the answer.
It's getting into those positions more frequently.
Yeah.
The next one is speed to the finish.
Ooh.
So we've got the bar, we've got to our power position, we've got that explosive triple extension. The next thought in your head, once you hit your power position, what are you thinking about?
I think, go! That's what I think.
Yeah, but what are you visualizing in your mind?
I'm visualizing myself already in the bottom of the squat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to. It's like, once that bar hits your power position, things should be moving fast enough that you probably can't really understand what's going on once it gets to your power position before that bar lands on your shoulders or lands overhead.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, in your mind, you should already have a picture of where you need to be as soon as you get to your power. And you need to think about, I now need to get there as fast as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So that, for a lot of people, if you're doing slow, if you're slow in the middle, you're not developing that power that we spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get there quick.
Yes.
So to teach you how to get there quick is we do them quite often. Those tall drop things.
Yep.
It's like you're tall and then you finish and you make your feet really loud, because if you make your feet loud, you have to have moved fast to get there.
Yes.
There's no way you cannot have loud feet and be slow.
Yeah, unless you're doing the artificial donkey kick thing, which we tell people not to do, where they lift the foot and slam the ground instead of just dropping fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In an ideal world, it's like you want like a piece of paper on the floor, you're just off the floor and
Bang.
We're banging into position. So I guess to become fast is like, forget about all the mumbo jumbo in the middle. Yeah. Once that bar gets to your power, you need to, in your mind, be thinking about the finish. You're not thinking about pulling the bar high. You're not thinking about anything. Like in a clean, I am never thinking about a high pull. In a snatch, I never even think about a high pull. I'm like thinking about, I need to get to the end.
Yeah.
I need to get there as fast as I can to the end.
To that safe receiving position.
Yeah, to the receiving position.
Where that bar's either stable overhead or stable in the front rack.
And if you're someone who struggles to get there fast, you either need to A, lighten the load so you can get there fast.
Yeah.
B, you need to do specific drills at light loads, which would probably be tall drops, would be perfect.
Tall snatch, tall clean.
Tall snatch and tall cleans, perfect.
Yep.
For some people, it's just you just need to do those with a broomstick.
Yeah.
If you can do a tall snatch with a broomstick and go bang, you're down.
Yeah.
Then eventually you can probably get a 10 kilo bar and bang, you're down. And then eventually you can go 15 kilo bar, bang, you're down. And then eventually you're doing that with your max on the bar. Bang, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah, 100%. You got to train it. You got to, like that, having that cue in mind of like, okay, I've actually got to my technique has to not be the focus now. It's like my actual speed, my rate of movement has to be the focus now.
Yeah.
Like I need to be electric.
Yeah.
I need to be fast. I need to be powerful. I need to strike under the bar. I need my nervous system to turn on. I need to be thinking quick thoughts. I need to like move as fast as the speed of sound under that bar.
Yeah.
Go. No
Yeah.
time to waste.
Yeah. It's about like being aggressive and about hitting those positions and then getting there as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So some people need to learn how to go quick, go as fast as you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people, because I mean,
like,
if you're slow, you're not going to be fast under the bar, and
No.
you need to train to be fast. Some
Yeah,
people naturally have it, type 2, type 1 fibers, but that like people don't need to be thinking about that. And I don't know if you ever get this one, but people are like, oh, I can't move fast because I did like a blood test and I'm predominantly type 1 fibers.
Well, who's told you that?
I've just heard it a couple times over the years, and I'm like, get under the bar. Like, go fast
and
drive under. That's it. Like, stop thinking about your fiber type. That like, okay, there's genetics come into it. Like, Usain Bolt is a fast runner, and he's genetically prone to be that way, faster than me. But if I train power and speed, I'm gonna get better at power and speed.
Yeah, and your type 1 fibers can become type 2 fibers.
Yes,
they can become. You can. If you train to be explosive, you will become explosive, or at least you'll be the most explosive version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like you. So,
I think it's important to note there as well is that obviously the heavier load that you're lifting, you can't get that bar as high. So, Russ, what's your max?
In what movement?
Squat clean.
Squat clean? I reckon.
But max is at the moment
110.
110 at the moment. So, Russ can lift 100 kilos higher in space than he can lift 110 kilos. But the reason that he can squat clean 110 kilos is because his ability to get his body underneath that bar quickly is there. And so if you can only get, say 110 kilos, 110 centimeters off the ground, then you need the speed to be able to get under that. But then when he puts 115 kilos on the bar, he can only get 105 centimeters off the ground. The bar's lower in space at the top of his pull. If he has the speed to get under that, he now can make that lift and he can now lift heavier. So if, we could analyse Russ's lift or whatever, we're just using him as an example. And
I'm probably a poor example of this because I think I can power clean more than I can squat clean at the moment.
Right, so well then maybe you're perfect, because then maybe if you became faster, became speedier under the bar, there's different moving parts to that. And I think with you, like joint integrity is one. Like I think if your speed under the bar, if you're doing that frequently, you tend to have aggravated knee joints, and
Yeah.
Would that be right?
Yeah. It's just that aggressive bouncing out of the bottom.
Yeah.
Where there's not a lot of tension.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel that great.
Yes.
But
So yeah, my point is that speed under the bar is going to help if you can't get that bar as high, which is naturally going to occur at some point for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were talking about that relationship. I think it's worth noting in terms of the clean. We're talking about the relationship between strength and technique. And if you have a technically sound clean, you should be able to lift about 90% of your front squat or about your 3 rep max front squat for a clean. Mm-hmm. So if you can front squat for 3 reps 100 kilos, but cannot clean that weight, then there is a technical issue with your clean. If you can clean that weight and you're trying to get stronger at the clean, you need to turn your attention to your squat strength.
Yeah.
Because you can't squat that weight. So there's no point you're going to try to keep cleaning it. You just need to get your front squat 3RM to 110. Now you can 110 3RM. You can do 110. Now you can think about, all right, now I need to work on my clean more to be able to do that weight. So there's always that relationship with your clean between your squat strength and your the amount you can clean.
Yeah. What is your squats per RM?
Oh, I don't know.
If you don't
I
mind
haven't been doing front squats lately, not really. So I reckon it's probably only like 100, 110.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you retired from the front squat.
I decided that I was going to retire.
Yeah.
I was like, what's the point of doing this movement that just pisses my knees off?
Yeah.
That I just keep doing. And when back squats feel way better.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's because it relates to your training goal.
Yeah.
Like your training goal is...
My training goal is to not feel sore.
Yeah, to not feel sore.
To just move and feel good.
Yeah, to move and feel good. You're not trying to become the best Olympic lifter or...
Not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Not at all. I mean, it would be great to me if I could do some squat cleans pain-free all the time, but it just doesn't seem to go that way.
Yeah.
So...
haven't quite found the remedy for the sore knees yet.
They were feeling really good. And then it's one of those things that it's like once they get inflamed, they feel bad for a few weeks before they feel good again. And then I need to like not piss them off again.
Right, so they got triggered and now they're
Yeah. And then like once you trigger, it's like once you piss it off and then it's like you start to unload, you start to try to like reduce the amount of stress on your knees, and then as a result you get weaker, and then it's like a vicious cycle of like now you just got weak again.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got to get back to the point of like you just got to get your legs stronger again, so you can put more force through them, and then you know what I mean. Like so, there's a relationship between the strength of the knee extensors and the keeping the knees feeling good.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think I am very hip dominant.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important to note that I think this issue would have been solved. Like I reckon this issue is definitely solvable. Just for you, I think like it's not high on your priority list. Like for the expression of fitness you already have through CrossFit, you're just someone that's sort of like, oh, I'm happy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if you really put your mind to it and you're like worked with an osteo and looked at your training volume and dosage and really analysed what you were doing, I think you're smart enough to be able to fix it. And I reckon I'd be mad if you did. But yeah.
It would just take a lot of work. It's like anything. It would just take a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just where you're at in your training journey right now, you're just like...
I'm happy to train an hour a day and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, did we touch on everything we went through?
Speed to finish. That was the
speed to finish. Drive. Yep. Drop. Get under that bar.
Yeah.
Cool. What's point 4, man?
I think we're going to address O shoes and what's the point of the O shoe? Do I need to get O shoes if I want to get better at my O lifts?
The high heels.
Yeah, the high heels. Do you know what an O shoe is? What is an O shoe?
Well, it was just a shoe that has, I don't actually know how much they range, but I would say the range is between like a centimetre to 2 to 3 centimetres like of height.
Yeah.
On the heel that's actually built into the shoe. So I don't know if you're in the gym and you see us putting plates under people's heels, that's so people can express a better squat and they can increase the range of motion in their ankle. And all Olympic lifting shoes have done is actually designed, they've created a shoe where they have that inbuilt heel raise in the shoe. So obviously it's going to be better if you move your feet aggressively in the Olympic lifts. So you don't want to be trying to jump and land on plates, so they've just gone ahead and made a shoe for that. So how do you know if you're someone that needs Olympic lifting shoes? Are Olympic lifting shoes for everyone?
I think if you're doing Olympic lifting and you want to be the best at your Olympic lifts, then Olympic lifting shoes are probably going to help you. There's a reason why every single professional Olympic lifter wears Olympic lifting shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody steps out on the Olympic lifting platform when the Olympics are on without the shoes on.
99%. I've seen some people do it in flats. I've seen some people snatch in flats.
They're not the world record holders, are they? The best in the world.
There's a Jap dude that's real good, but yeah, 99% is of the time. So it's minute.
It would be and I think like CrossFit, because of the sport of CrossFit, whereas like you're doing Olympic lifts and other things at the same time, CrossFitters like to think that they're going to get to a point where they can become mobile enough to do the Olympic lifts without the Olympic lifting shoes, because there is a point where if you have mobile enough ankles, you can probably do pretty close to your max without the shoes, and then go for a run. straight away.
Yeah.
Pop the bar down and start running.
Yeah.
Which is a requirement we saw it at Torreon with the run into a max snatch into a run. So there are going to be times where you're challenged in CrossFit to do the Olympic lift into something that probably where Olympic lifting shoes aren't going to help you at all.
Yeah, being a CrossFitter, you if you're going to use them, you have to be able to do both. Yeah. So
I think if getting the max weight on the bar is super, a priority for you, then they're going to help you. And they're also going to help you if you have stiff ankles. So what the Olympic lifting shoe does is it just allows your knees to travel further forward by creating more ankle mobility. Essentially, your
doesn't create more ankle mobility.
Well, your calves don't have to get to it. Your ankle doesn't have to dorsiflex as much, to get that knee forward.
Yeah.
So you can stay more upright.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of staying more upright, your cleans, and specifically probably for most people, if they have never used an O shoe and then they do overhead squats the first time with an Olympic lifting shoe, they go, oh wow, I can actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I used Olympic lifting shoes and I reckon I was struggling to overhead squat 50 kilos, struggled.
That's a great moment.
And then I threw the shoes on and I'm like, wait a second, I can do this easy.
Yeah.
So it's just because, I didn't have ankle range for my knees to travel that far forward. And now all of a sudden you've got that new range, bang, it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And the Olympic lifts, for the most part, it's a more quad dominated sport. So the Olympic lifting shoes force you to use your quads more because they force you into a more upright start position, they force you more upright catch position. Your quads are going to work harder. You're probably going to be more successful in your O lifts. So do you need them? That's the question. I think no.
Yeah. But
also at the same time, I think for some people, it's going to help. Or for everyone, it's going to help.
Yeah.
But
they're not a necessity.
They're not a necessity because if you can perform the lift safely, if you can get into good position to do it safely without, then there's no need to get them. But
they're
understand that it's like a lifting belt.
Yeah.
It's like it might add 5% to your lifts.
Yeah.
It might add a bit of weight to your lifts, but it isn't necessary. For some people who have super, super tight ankles, it's almost going to be like, I would lean on,
There's more of an advantage.
Like if you're going to do a squat clean and you don't have the ankle mobility, you shouldn't be doing that squat clean because like we just said, what's the point of doing a movement if you can't get into the correct position?
Yeah.
You're not getting into the correct position anymore. You're putting more stress on the joints.
If you can hit full depth and you're neutral spine, core tension, and that bar's not super forward of the midfoot.
Yeah.
Slightly forward is okay. It's not ideal, but it's okay.
Yeah, I would say it like you should get them if you're not in the right positions.
Yeah.
But the option for most people is they'll just maybe use the plates under the heels, the old ghetto O shoe, man. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it is.
For any squat work, but obviously when you do your O lifts, you don't have the option of jumping onto a plate.
Yeah.
So that's where the shoes are going to be beneficial. If you're someone who gets told to put plates under your shoes every time you squat, at some point in your CrossFit journey, you should think about investing in some O shoes because they're probably going to help you a lot unless you all of a sudden start to go, I need to fix my ankles and do mobility work. And to get more mobile ankles, unfortunately, you're going to need to do that every day.
Yeah, just treat yourself.
You're going to need to, you can either spend like 6 months trying to get more ankle mobilities or you can just splash out on these fancy shoes and bang, you're fixed instantly.
Go and grab yourself some style.
Yeah.
You get style points if you got the O shoes on.
Have you ever worn a pair of O shoes that are that comfy though? Because there's I have not owned a pair of O shoes where I'm like I could just walk around in these all day because they're not that comfortable.
No, they're not. They're like it's like wearing high heels, and I mean I've worn high heels less times than not too many times in my life, but only on Sunday nights. And they're hard to walk in, or the females in my life tell me anyway. They love getting them off. They throw the heels at the end of the night. So walking around in heeled shoes is more challenging. But they're bloody well help you lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yes, if you're on the fence about them, maybe talk to coach, say, do I need them? But if you don't own a pair of like CrossFit shoes, like, and you're lifting in runners, if you're lifting in acids, go get a pair of nanos or metcons first.
Yeah.
And then think about the Oshu at the later date.
Yeah.
That would be my advice also.
Flat stable shoes is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like most, like the nanos these days, they do have a little bit of a heel lift. They're not completely flat. The 10s, they were completely flat. The 9s are completely flat.
Yeah.
The newer models, they have a little bit of a natural fall, which is most shoes. Most shoes have a higher heel than a forefoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
O shoes, they're an accessory, not a necessity. They will help you, but you do need to be able to do all different types of things in CrossFit, and you need to be able to snatch, then run, and clean and jerk, then double under. So you always don't want to wear them, so you don't want to be relying on them.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, you snatch it over your head, you step onto your plates, and you start squatting.
Yeah. Which you can't do in competition. If you want to compete, then that's a different thing. Because you can't bring plates out onto the floor for you. You bring 8 plates and
the new Metcons, they have little heel lifts you can insert. So they're sort of like a cross, like they're almost no lift Oshu, right?
Yeah, almost, yeah.
You just get little heel lifts you put inside your shoes. So
another side note, the new tier lifting shoes, they've got the wider toe box, because that's what I hate about my Reebok Legacies is they squish my toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the new tier.
I've seen the ads for that from Squat University talking about his wide toe boxes.
Yeah, TYR. Yeah. They're good. That's what I like about the nanos. That I bought Metcons. I bought 2 pairs of Metcons. Side story. Took them home, tried them on, walked around in them. Because I tested them out in the store and I was like sort of hyped for them. And then I took them home, tried them out, trained in them once. And just took them straight back, both pairs. It's like, nah, all good, thanks. I'll stick to nanos. Because my toe was just getting squished.
Yeah, no, I've never. Well, I can't say I've ever owned a pair of Metcons, but I've tried them on and they just don't feel as good for me.
Yeah, I'm not hating on the Metcons. I just have a wide foot.
Yeah, some people are. You're either a Metconer or you're a nano, and like once you go to one, like you don't change.
Yeah.
And now these TYRs are on the scene. I feel like people are. There's a few more CrossFit shoes on the scene, but anyway, let's not talk about CrossFit shoes.
Yeah. Let's go 0.5 and wrap up.
All right, last point is most people fail their O-lifts from the floor. So that's the last point. So cool, we've learned how to extend the hips, we've learned how to speed the finish, but what you got to understand is that once you can do that, once you understand that, most people are mucking up their lifts as they pull off the floor. Because if you get pulled out of position from the floor, there's no chance of recovering that and getting back into a correct position to save that bar.
I'd say it's the principle of start right to finish right.
Yeah. And I guess the reason for that being is that probably the number one reason, and I know when you were coaching 7 a.m. this morning, you brought it up with people when you were talking about the clean pulls, is that people are trying to start too fast. They just send it. They get into the position, their start position looks awesome, you look good, and then they hit the send button. And they don't, instead of staying tight and pressing that floor away and focusing on holding those positions everywhere else, it's just they try to rip it off the floor and then they try to keep riding that momentum all the way to the finish. And if you rip it off the floor, chances are something's going to move that's not meant to move.
They try to take off like a rocket.
Yeah.
That rocket's got to take off at the hips though.
Yeah.
You need to go back to 0.1, was it? Violent triple extension?
Yeah. You need to accelerate. You need to be constantly accelerating as you approach the hip.
Yes.
So if you start too fast, you start at 100%, your pedal's all the way down.
Yeah. You
can't push it any further. It's already all the way down.
Yeah.
And it's probably, you're starting to do burnout or something.
Yeah. It's sort of like, it's kind of like I would almost say like a linear graph with like a peak. And once you hit that peak of as fast as possible, you only go down from there. So if your fastest possible point was from the floor, you're going to be slower at the hips than you were at the floor. So you need to actually be a touch slower off the floor than what you want to be at the hips.
Yeah.
So constant acceleration with the peak being at the hips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, top of the quads, wherever you're contacting.
Yeah. And as you get better with the lifts, you can start to go faster off the floor.
Yes.
But as a beginner, you should definitely be going super slow off the floor because you don't know how to get to your power.
I don't know if that's actually... I think that more advanced lifters actually need to slow down too. I see some cleans where people are just like, is this a deadlift? And then all of a sudden they're underneath it. And I'm like, oh shit, I need to slow down in my pull. You know what I mean? You sort of, just to challenge that. But yeah, definitely like, there's going to be conflicting ideas. But I think beginners do need to, stay nice and slow off the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, be fast at the hip. Yeah, would you say a more advanced lifter still needs to have the most accelerated part of the lift being at the hip?
100%. Yeah. The fast part of the lift is that triple. Like, that's where the money's made.
I hear what you're saying.
Money's made at the hip, but as you get better, you can start to get faster off the floor, because if you have more momentum coming into your hip and can hit your hip and still triple extend hard, then that's a win.
Yeah.
The more momentum coming into the position, the faster the bar's already moving, the faster it has the potential to go, right?
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who doesn't really know where those positions are, chances are if you try to go fast, you're going to muck up everything. So you need to go slower again to hit the positions, and then over time you can start to build a little bit more speed. And then if you continue to hit the positions, you're winning. You're still winning. Yeah. But if you start to go faster at some point, and then something else is suffering as a result of that, then you're making a boo-boo.
Yeah. And so the point here is to make sure that you're starting right so that you finish right. And I think that relating it to how you throw a ball is a good one, because I think if you start in the wrong position when you're going to throw a ball, it's not going to end up right. You've got to make sure that ball's ending up behind you, and then you're throwing it. But the same way as if you were to freeze frame a snatch, and if you were to freeze frame someone throwing a ball and you were to break down each part of it, you need to make sure that you're actually throwing that ball with good technique slowly first, the same way that you would need to pull the bar off the floor in a snatch slowly first, and then start to feel that snap. And where it's like, whoa, the ball, I felt myself throw that ball faster, or wow, I felt that bar actually accelerate and float.
Yeah. And I think another reason why people muck up off the floor as well is as the bar gets heavier, it has the tendency to pull you forward.
Yes.
Yeah? Same applies with the deadlift, but in your max deadlift, you're going to be pulled forward and you're probably going to be able to hold on and ride that bar up. But as soon as you start to lose a bit of tension in your back, in your O-lifts, that's not going to equal your strongest power position anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to make it very hard for you to get a violent triple extension if we lose tension somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
So most people get pulled forward. So they need to think about trying to stay tighter on the floor. And the best way to get better at the floor is, again, to work down through your positions. That's why in every single warm-up, we do reps from the top down. Because if we know how to get down from the top, hopefully we can get back the same way we came.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. I think, tell me if you like this idea, but so it's like setting up in the correct floor position, I think actually sets you up for the better power position, like you just said. And I think the reason for that is that your hips are lower when you begin off the floor, and if your hips raise and become higher, as you pass from your hanged position to your power position, there's less distance from your hips to the barbell, and there's less room for you to create force because there's less distance moving from the hang to the power position. Whereas if you kept your hips down as you move from the hang to the power position, there's now more distance from your hips to the barbell, and you are thus being able to create more force for your extension.
I'm trying to follow because it's a lot to visualize.
So from the floor.
Yeah,
if you keep your bum down,
I would probably say the reason why the hips rising too fast becomes an issue is because now your shoulders, instead of being on top of the bar, are forward of the bar, and your torso is probably more parallel to the floor than it should be. And if you're in that position, your hips are now have to come through further, but the problem with that is your hips are coming through and they're going forward, and they're no longer the more you can keep your hips underneath the bar, the more likely you are to hit a more vertical power position, and then that force go up. Whereas if your bum rises first, you might feel like you got a lot of power at the hips, but all that power is generated.
I was saying you have
horizontal.
less. You would have less.
And what I'm saying is you're generating power, but you're generating in the wrong direction.
Yeah, wrong direction.
Yeah. So it's like instead of that force being more vertical, you're now, all that force is just coming from your hips and it's going forward.
Yeah,
and it's just smacking the bar away from you. Mm-hmm. So like hips rise early, likely that person is going to either hit the bar away and catch it forward or jump forward to receive the bar, because they're not going to be able to get back into a good power position.
That's a Stevie Guest, man.
Is it?
Yeah, calling out Stevie Guest there. We were talking about it last night. Stevie's all good.
Is he a jumper? Is he a jump forwarder?
He's a jump forwarder because the hips rise.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the first pull.
So if you're a jump forwarder, I actually a drill I learned some years ago at the Outlaw Way seminar. I learned to actually just get your feet on a mat.
Yep.
Yeah. Half your foot on the mat.
Yep.
Half the foot in front of the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you snatch or clean, you aim to actually have your feet, the whole foot on the mat. So what that teaches you is actually, if you jump forward excessively, now you've got to jump backwards. As a result of jumping backwards, you now need to jump backwards, you need to get somewhat upright. Mm-hmm. It's hard to jump backwards and you being on top of the bar still.
Yeah.
So it teaches you to extend your first pull and be more patient. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully take the mat away and you do the same thing and it fixes the issue.
Right.
So it's like going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And then taking it away and hopefully now you just hit the middle.
I think learning to jump back is good because when you're jumping forward, technically in your mind what you need to do is just jump back and you'll probably land in the same spot.
Yeah.
Well, so having the proprioception to be able to do that is another reason as to why that drill would be good.
Yeah, and I guess when you do actually, I don't know, we cue in pulls and stuff to try to stay on top of the bar, but what actually occurs in your O lifts when you do hit when you hit a full triple extension, when you jump as high as possible, you are actually going to be behind the bar somewhat. Your shoulders have to go behind the bar
100%.
for your strongest, to be in your strongest position. If you want to be in your longest and strongest position, you're not going to be straight up and down. You're actually going to be flying backwards. We don't want to necessarily think about that, but for some people who, if they're struggling and they're jumping forward, maybe they do need to think about that because they're not getting behind the bar. Yeah, their shoulders are staying forward, and as a result, they're coming forward to receive that barbell. So, yeah.
I remember I used to jump back heaps, and I had to learn to jump forward, and that was me like staying in the same position in my mind. That's what staying in the same spot felt like. Yeah. Learning to jump forward is.
Some of the best lifters in the world will jump back a little bit.
And like we said before, there's going to be nuances of people that do things, differently. But I think that generally, if we speak on what we think perfect form is, we'd aim to jump and land in the same spot.
Yes. But I mean, if someone jumps slightly back, I'm never going to correct them on it. I'm never going to say, hey, you need to fix this, because it's not an issue. It's not
the last 1% thing.
It's not stopping them from. It might even be beneficial because of the curve of the way the bar's getting pulled. The bar never moves in a straight line. It does. There is a slight S bend. It comes into your body. It comes away from you slightly at the hip, and then it comes back into you. So you catching the bar slightly back, that bar is just coming back, and that might be the best. That might be your strongest and most stable position of where you're receiving the bar. So I wouldn't think it's a big issue. I would never correct someone unless it was like excessive.
I'd correct that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be time and place as well. It'd be very time and place.
Yeah. Well, what are we doing right now?
That was 0.5.
I mean, what are we talking about with the extension? There was something else I actually have started doing when I'm power snatching lately, which I used to do, and then I forgot about it, and then I thought about it again. Started to think about it in my lifts is actually looking at the ceiling for a split second.
Ooh.
So that's
naughty.
No. I reckon that makes me more like it makes my power snatch like it makes.
Throw a bit of that mass in your head. Throw it backwards to create a bit more force.
Well, I mean, I've once upon a time I've definitely seen other coaches cue this.
Yeah.
And I know that there's some weightlifting schools that actually have a piece of tape on the ceiling.
Right.
So that you sight the tape and then you boom boom. Yeah?
Right.
Because that forces you to hit your full extension. If you throw your head, if you throw your head back as well,
Yeah.
you're going to extend.
Yeah.
You're going to be, you should have a lot of power at the top of your pull.
Right.
So, I mean, that's obviously excessive, but it feels good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, you have to try shit. You have to try different things. It's how you learn and push the limits. You got to, and if it works for you, then.
And you're probably not going to get a beginner to do that straight away. But like, if someone's struggling to get explosive, and then you cue them and tell them look at the ceiling, and all of a sudden it looks good.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, that's works for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Run to the bank with it.
Let's go.
Yeah. Run to the PB bank.
So max out day's coming, guys. 3 weeks out.
August 19th, Saturday.
At this stage of the game, you probably shouldn't be changing things drastically. We've done 8-9 weeks of training. Let's just get the weight on the bar and focus on that one thing that you know you can improve each session. Focus on one thing. Maybe that's going to be different for all of you. Maybe you've had a chat with the coach, or maybe there's something you know that you've identified that's a weakness for you. Think about those one things. Don't try to now's not the time to go, my lift's up, I need to strip everything back. Because remember, the aim of the game is to lift as most weight as possible on that day. If you can lift more in a power variation of a lift, that is what you should be doing when you're on max out day.
Yes.
The goal is to get your best lift over your head.
Like, you don't want to be someone at the moment that's like, oh, I'm just going to strip the weights back so I can really focus on my technique.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We've done that.
Yeah.
Like, we've been focusing on the technique. If anything, now hopefully things should be feeling good.
Yeah.
If they're not, at the end of this cycle, then take the weight back, refix those things you need to work on. If you're just learning how to split jerk and you only started split jerking 2 weeks ago, probably not the time to do it. Yeah. If your push jerk is way better than your split jerk, just keep push jerking.
Yeah.
If your push jerk's better than your split jerk any day, why are you split jerking? Just push jerk. Mate, you've got it over your head.
Mum's spaghetti is hot. It's time to lose yourself in the opportunity of lifting heavy.
Yeah. And you don't get these opportunities very often.
Yeah.
You don't get the opportunities where
This is it. This is the one time of the year. This is it. This is when we're peaking our lifts in our macro cycle. This is, if you want to get as much weight on the bar in your snatch and clean and jerk, now is the time. You have the whole rest of the year to refine your technique. You need to take opportunity right now. It's here. Dinner's hot.
Nice.
Time to eat.
Cool. Oh, thanks for listening, guys.
Last two things I just want to mention. We've got a new apparel drop coming soon. New jumpers are going to come in. Maybe even some tees. We're just finalising some things, putting designs together. We've gone with a nice eucalyptus oversized hoodie incoming. So
do they smell as good as they sound?
Oh, I'm sure they do, man. And the second thing is Russ has hinted at an in-house competition that may be going down, that definitely is going down in the next training cycle. I suppose we can release that it's going to be same-sex pairs. So if you've got a good training buddy that you is the same gender as you,
I would say try to buddy up with someone who trains at the same time as you each day, because then you can actually get some team training done. Because after the max out day, so it's 3 weeks of max out day, in that cycle leading up to the comp, there probably will be, lo and behold, some partner workouts for you and your partner to communicate, to get the vibe going, to see who's good at what, to see how you're going to get your best score on the day. And remember, it is all about having fun. So, and then that's going to be someone who's going to keep you super accountable with your training and get you to the gym. If you know, hey, we're going to do this thing together in 8 weeks' time, we've got a bit of work ahead of us, we want to do our best on the day, we need to show up to the gym, 3-4 times a week at minimum, and make it happen. So if you've got someone who's training at the same time as you, look them in the eye and go, hey, me and you, baby, let's go.
Yeah, no, we're definitely a gym that, we're different gym business. We like our people to actually show up and actually train, and we actually like to see you guys progress. So we're not one of these 24/7 chains that wants as many members as possible. But with people not showing up, we want you guys there in the gym and smacking it. So
we are going to be a 24/7 chain.
Ooh,
soon.
Whoa! That's a little Easter egg. Little Easter egg coming in.
And once we are, just Yeah, no. We still want you to come to class. You can come outside the class, but that's for some bonus training.
100%.
The main goal should be get to class, get the work done every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
Make it happen.
All right, peace out. See you on the way, fam. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.